the Spirit Sessions podcast. I'm your guide, Katie Solocast, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us, where I'll help you find your true spiritual home, where every single aspect of you is holy ground, holy ground, holy ground, holy ground.
This is Spirit Session Podcast with Katie Silcox. Venga chicos, empezamos. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hi everyone, Katie here. This podcast is intended to inspire you, educate you, and most importantly, support you on your journey towards knowing who you really are, that inner self, that inner teacher. I am not a psychologist or a medical doctor and do not offer professional health or medical advice on this podcast. If you are suffering from any kind of psychological or medical issue, please do the right thing and seek help from your qualified health professional. Hey everyone, welcome to Spirit Sessions. I'm your Ayurveda Gal Friday, Katie Silcox. You know I'm here with you. It is such a beautiful morning here in Virginia. I want to set the scene for you. It is blanketed in the leftover snow from our snowstorm. And, you know, we don't get a ton of snow here anymore. I remember growing up, we used to get a lot more, and sitting outside in this most glorious sunrise. It's a freezing cold winter morning. The birds are still flying across the cloudy, sunlit sky, and I am reminded of Hawaii. And in Hawaii, there are certain beaches where people gather and they sit to watch the sunset. And sometimes there's even applause. And I love that image of just this deep sense of appreciation for nature and the beauty that is nature and all of the seasons and all of her permutations. And I am sitting here thinking a lot lately about death. And I know that might sound sad and depressing, but this is the time. Winter really is the time where we're naturally brought into a more internal focus. And you know, I was telling my students at our New Year's Day workshop that January is actually not the new year for almost any tradition, especially not nature tradition, right? January, for many of us, unless we're in the Southern Hemisphere, is really about learning how to open our heart to this thing that we so often push away. And I'm thinking about the Buddha and the invitation that he gave to his students to repeat morning and night. And that invitation was that we wake up every morning and remember that everything that we love will eventually go away. That these bodies that we have will eventually die. That everything in creation is subject to loss and even sickness and disease. That everyone and everything that we hold most dear will eventually go away. But wait, there's more. The only thing that we have any belonging of is the way that we choose to respond to this moment now. Our only belonging is the way that we choose to show up today, in this life, here and now. And in that there is great beauty and there's great hope and there is great possibility for change, for transformation, for hope, for a future that actually we do have a lot of control over. In the first 4 things that I said, which we really don't have control over. None of us has the power, no matter how many supplements that we take or how many red lights we sit in front of or how many serums we put on our skin. None of us have the the ability to actually control the inevitability of loss and death and destruction. That's a part of the Holy Trinity. But in the acceptance of that, in the opening is a good word, in the real opening to that, at first there's fear and there's loss of that feeling of sadness or mourning, but then there's also this sense of humor at it all, and levity and possibility and openness and lack of clinging. And in that, there can be the twin of death is birth. It's creativity, it's creation, it's possibility. And I want to just add in, it's a sense of dignity. Dignity emerges out of the willingness to stand in loss, in the willingness to let go, in the willingness to open to the way in which we are all kind of clinging, you know? And I've been working a lot with this lately about death and dignity and truth. So when we walk in what is true, it can be really, really frightening. So we're talking today about these really big truths, and that is that everything that we love won't be here forever, including ourselves. This body won't be here forever. Those truths are things that we kind of are all brushing to the side, and a lot of the ways that we distract ourselves and get into our soothing mechanisms is really about avoiding that reality. But when we start to actually stand in these truths, I have found there's this, the word that I like to use for it is there's this real sense of standing in your truth and in your power and in your dignity. I sent out an email last week about soul lies and soul truths. And there's a way that we all kind of know what we need to be doing. We all kind of know how we need to be living. We know what's good for us. We know what's not good for us. And yet we still go towards the things that aren't great for us. And in that, we create this little, it's often unconscious rub with our sense of self-worth and self-esteem. Oftentimes we get lost in this idea that our sense of self-worth and self-esteem can come from some sort of like external validation, or the way that we prep ourselves up with how, quote, well we're doing in our lives. Soul truth and dignity do not have anything to do with external validation. They come from actually reacting and responding to reality in a way that is in alignment with our deeper knowing, that deeper yes, that deeper no. And let me tell you, I am really good at going against it. And I'm really lucky because I have a really good sense of intuition. And I know a lot of you listening out there do too. It's like, oh my God, I know. I already know. And I have this wonderful karma in this lifetime of having the privilege to work with women in this really intimate way around their health and their body and their relationship and their sexuality and their spirituality, like all of these realms that are so personal and so intimate. And when I sit with women, it's amazing. They know what they need, and so do I. And it can be super helpful to just have people remind you of that. But more and more, I'm seeing that dignity emerges out of doing what you know is right, doing what your soul tells you to do, listening to that quiet inner voice and not letting the voices of the senses override it. Dignity. So for a really, really long time, it may not surprise you, have really struggled with unconsciously seeking validation from the outside. And especially when it came to intimate relationships, I would go against my deeper knowing and do a lot of, let me say it the right way. I want to say it the right way. if you sense me pausing, it's because I really, really want to convey this in like a way that I hope will reach as many hearts out there as possible. Because I feel like in the self-help world, there's this way that we shame ourselves so much. And it's just like, let's let that go for a second. The thing that we are so good at is also our deepest entrapment. And so for me, and I know for a lot of you out there listening, I have this superpower and it's really awesome. And I'm really grateful for it. And one of my superpowers is that I can see the beauty and the light and the divinity and the dharma and the gift and the uniqueness and the wonder and the talent. I can see it in other people. Like I can meet anybody off the street and give me like 15 minutes with them. And I can literally see their light. I can see their gift. I was in a furniture store yesterday with this beautiful young woman. And I was just like, oh my God, she's so good at this, and this, and this, and this. And I could see her secret little glimmer of the thing that I think a lot of people don't see about her really quickly. Like she comes across as really sweet and quiet. And I could see this like inner pit bull that would like grab on and not let go. And I told her and she was like, oh my God, yeah, this is it. And so I'm good at that, right? And I can feel how happy it makes me to be good at that, because when we're good at something that serves, there's no better feeling than being a service and to other people and to just loving on them and seeing their light. I'm grateful that I have this superpower. It's probably why, we've been able to build this beautiful school called Shakti School. So I'm not throwing off on myself, but guess what? This superpower has a gnarly shadow side. I want to share it with you. And that is that when you are able to see so much love and so much goodness and so much light and so much superpower in someone else, another way of saying that is see their potential. The shadow of that is that, especially when it comes to relationships, you can fall in love with someone's potential. You can track their possibility. You can also track their light. You can track their goodness that they really do have. So for me, I've had to really watch that because it can cause me to go against what I really know in my heart, and that is, this person's not ready for me. This person's not ready for, or maybe a better way of saying that is this isn't a good fit. But wait, I can see all this goodness. I can see all this light. And for me, one of the biggest struggles in my life has been to not fall in love with people's possibility, to not fall in love with potential, to actually show up for myself and not abandon myself in the light of the glimmer of possibility and potential. And so recently I've really been working with trying to track that and to stay in what is true right now. To not fall in love with some future vision, with some future possibility, but to actually stand in the ground of what's actually occurring right now. And when I do that, even though sometimes it's like a painful truth, I feel like I'm standing in my power. I'm standing in my dignity. And I'm standing in the thing that allows me to wake up in the morning and feel like I'm me and I'm who I want to be. There's this incredible poem I have written, and I have it on my bathroom mirror, and it helps guide me in those moments when I feel like by speaking that truth, by standing in what I know to be real, I'm going to lose something. I'm going to be in that Buddhist truth of impermanence, and that doesn't feel good. And it's this wonderful poem, and I know so many of you out there probably know it, but I want to read it to you all, dear listener, today, just in case you've lived this life for how many years you've been on this planet and you've missed out on this poem. It's by Mary Oliver, and she says, "You do not have to be good." And so I want to close this little podcast reflection, this freezing cold morning in January as the sun rises in front of me and the geese, I hope you could hear them, flit by. This is a poem about your dignity. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. I think it's pretty serendipitous that this cold morning I had this poem for you, for me, dear listener, from Mary Oliver, and as I was about to read it, I pray that you could hear the wild geese that showed up, that flew across the sky a few minutes before I was about to pray this poem to you and to myself. And I want you to know how much this podcast has meant to me over these years. And dear listener, I hope that it's meant that much to you. You all know by now, we have this one thing that we do every year. It starts January 15th. By the time this podcast goes out, it'll be the 17th, and it's still not too late to get into level 1. If you feel that you may have missed out, if you are one of our missing women, join us. It's not too late. The class is already in the classroom. You can sign up right now, and you can start right now today with us, where we teach women how to stand in their dignity. And I am dedicating 2025 to my own health, to my own healing, and to allowing Shakti School to be my home and my place of healing. It's a new samkalpa for me. I've often gotten wrapped up in the business side and then the teaching side of the Shakti School. And this year I'm really letting school be my own place of health and healing. And I would love to join you in 2025 in that. If that's your calling, you do not have to be good to join. All you have to do is be willing to show up and let the soft animal of your body be breathed. Thank you so much for this meditative morning, and I hope to see you in the classroom. Much love. A big special thanks to Kevin Carlisle of Goodbye Gemini, who wrote this beautiful podcast music, and to DJ Juan Pablo Jimenez in southern Spain for mixing it and making it magic.